So I want to have a quick conversation around threads and specifically pitch. Threads come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. You can see I've got a range of bolts here. One thing that they all have in common is that they all have a thread on them. The thread being the part that screws into a threaded hole. But there are differences, the different shapes and the different sizes. So I want to have a conversation around threads on bolts. No, it doesn't have to be on a bolt, but in this instance we're talking about bolts. You can see that I have a selection here of various threads on various bolts, and they're all the same shape, but they're different sizes. And that's important because if we need to tap a hole to suit one of these bolts, we need to know the size of that thread. Now, the initial size that we worry about is the diameter of the thread. So this is a M12. This is a 12mm diameter bolt. So I know if I tap that M12, it should fit. Again, I have another M12 there. I have an M10 bolt here. So that's a 10mm bolt. I have an M6 and an M8 respectively. Now, although the diameter changes, there is another thing that changes as well, and that is the pitch of the bolt. So if we have a look at our M6 bolt here, we can see that the distance between the spikes, the peaks on our bolt, is different to the peaks on, say, this M12. They are not the same distance apart, and that is what we call our pitch. Now, you can have different size pitches for bolts of the same diameter. So an M12 bolt, for example, may have a pitch of 1.5, or it may have a pitch of 1.25. So if I tried to put a bolt with a pitch of 1.5 in a hole that was 1.25, it wouldn't fit. So the easiest way to sort of visualize this is if we have our thread on our bolt, like so. Pretend this drawing's a little bit neater. The distance between the spikes is P, our pitch. Whereas the distance across the bolt is our thread size, that's our actual diameter. This pitch does change quite often. And especially if we're talking about different standards of threads, so you may have an English thread or an imperial thread that will not fit in a metric hole anywhere near. It is important to make sure that your taps suit